अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुविष्णुगुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ ह्रीं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। If you notice the mood of how we explore Lalita Sahasranama or Saundarya Lahari or even a Mukundamala Stotram we saw recently, versus how we explore an Upanishad which is absolutely abstract. Although we try to do it in a similar fashion, even Bhagavad Gita, if you look at it, our exploration in many ways remains similar, because we are trying to get to the root cause of everything, right? What is that thing that is the root cause of all of this that we are experiencing, that we are talking, seeing, speaking, living, dying? And there are people saying we are reborn, right? Then there is Paramatma, there is Jivatma, there is this, that. The root of all of it is what we are trying to look at. And through all of these texts, that is what we try to do. If we try to follow the pattern of what we have been trying to do, is the same thing. It is just the texts change. It is just the script or the way in which the same idea is presented by different people is changing. People who are presenting it is changing. The way it is presented is changing, and the words they are using here and there are changing little bit here and there. But essentially, it is the same. Essentially, we are trying to look at what is this that is within me, which is operating even without my voluntary control over it. We all are experiencing that, right? I am not controlling everything. That much understanding we have come to. Otherwise, we wouldn't be looking at spiritual pursuit. We won't be looking at any form of spiritual introspection if we don't come to the recognition that I don't control everything. Some things are happening completely out of my control. Now, whether you give it a name, call it Bhagavan, call it Devi, call it Ambal, call it Muruga, call it Ganapati, whatever you call, or call it Narayana, call it Acharya, Guru, it doesn't matter. We've come to a recognition that there is something that is operating here which is happening on its own. Now, when we are doing Vishnu Sahasranama, Lalita Sahasranama, Saundarya Lahari, Shyamala Dandakam, Aditya Hridayam, we are keeping some form, or even Bhagavad Gita for that matter, we are keeping a form or an ishta and finding some solace in that ishta. Saying, oh, Bhagavan Surya Narayana, he is there, he is protecting, I look to him, I pray to him. There is Krishna, he is giving advice, I am praying to him, he is giving me the knowledge. Then I look at Mukundamala Stotram. Kulasekara Alvar is talking about Narayana. Kulasekara Alvar is sharing. He is giving, as an Acharya, he is teaching, training. So there is a figurehead. But we come to works like the Upanishads, particularly if you're going to the core of the Upanishads, there is no figurehead. Alayum kadayadu, valum kadayadu. There is nothing there. You can give it a name. Even Ishavasya Upanishad, the only place Isha appears is the first verse. Ishavasya idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. That is the only place where the word Isha appears. After that, there is no reference to any individual or a personality. So Upanishads in many ways is very abstract. There is a reason why it is abstract, because it is pointing to that tattva which is not, it's devoid of all forms of identification. The moment you identify with something, there is always this mine versus yours. That is why we always, even now, we have so much of fights between Rama and Allah, Krishna and Jesus. All of this fight keeps going on, is because there is identification. The moment you've identified with something, it is difficult for you to identify with something else, withdraw from here. Or if you withdraw from here, it creates some level of conflict. The word Ananta means that which has no end. Correct? You cannot have two Anantas. The moment there are two Anantas, it means one is killing the Ananta of the other, which means one is bringing the end to the other. How can you say there are two infinites? How can I say there is an infinite which is Bhagavan Narayana, and then there is also infinite which is Allah? They have to be the same. They cannot be two infinites. It has to be one. It has to be the same thing. The problem is when we identify with one or the other. And that identification becomes, and it is very important because that we need an adhara. We need something to support us by psychologically. When I come and tell you, you are alone, how many of us will be able to take it comfortably, brave, and in a very positive way? If I say there's nothing here, you're alone, you're all by yourself, a lot of us will have mental breakdown. I need a Krishna to hold to. I need a Bhagavan to hold to. I need a Devi to hold to. I need something to hold on to. And it is beautiful as long as it doesn't create limitations. It doesn't become your identity so that you disrespect the identity of the other. To the extent that you say this is the only identity that we should all carry. Any identification for that matter is absolutely in the realm of the finite. And it is your identity. It's not somebody else's. And then when you are going in the search of this truth, which this ultimate thing that is there, which is, you see that is controlling everything around you, the person you hate is also controlled by that same principle. The person you love is also controlled by the same principle. You are also controlled by the same principle. Where is the differentiation? That Surya, there is no differentiation. It falls, like they say, it rains. Somebody goes to a Pullayar Kovil and breaks 4 coconuts saying that I should be able to burgle a very rich man today and make money. And another rich man comes and breaks 4 coconuts, say that make sure my wealth is secured and safe. So who will Bhagavan listen to? Both have given equally 4 coconuts. Who will Ganesha listen to? So this identification is the cause of conflict. So when we know that there is something that is in control, the flavor what Upanishads bring out is that something is not necessarily a person. Right? The Upanishads kind of bring that flavor out. It is also a person, see, which is why Nirguna and Saguna both are beautiful ways of approaching the ultimate, the supreme principle. Both are beautiful ways. But there are times also we need to understand that the Brahman is not limited by the Saguna. Saguna means the form. He is not limited by the form. He is expressed in a certain form. Narayana takes 10 avatars. Dashavatara is what we know. But if you go look at the Bhagavatam, there are 22 avatars. But those avatars are there. Those avatars are by the same Narayana. And then we go and say that same Narayana is present in all and everything. So in the Archarupa, he is present in all forms of worship. In Antaryami, as Antaryami, he is present in everybody. So, identity, when we give to that principle, we should recognize it is for our own purpose and our own need. Our own need means I'm not saying a community's need, I'm saying an individual's need. I need today to see Bhagavan. I open my eyes, want to see Balaji, Krishna, Ambal. I want to see, or I want to see my Guru's photo. It is my need. We have to keep it very individualistic that way. We shouldn't convert it into a philosophy or a theory and then make communal things out of it. What Upanishads offer is a nice way where we can relieve ourselves from this need to associate to a form. We associate, and we also, there are times we ourselves associate, the same, there are times when we can also disassociate. And that, the second shloka, the second verse is around that. Right? So that's not the second verse, that is the first verse that Hastamalaka points out. Is of identity. Right? He is actually, if you look at the first verse, that is sufficient. Namanushyo, naham manushyo, nacha deva yakshao, na brahmana kshatriya vaishya shudraha, na brahmachari na grihi vanastah, bhikshur nachaham, nijabodha rupaha. So he hits at the root of everything, which is identification. He says, naham manushya, I am not a manushya. Manushya illaya, appadina edho devaro. Are you some form of devata? Saying, no, I am not a devata. I am not a yaksha. I am not a brahmana, kshatriya, or vaishya, or a shudra. I am not a brahmachari, grihastha, a vanaprasthi, or a sannyasi. I am none of that which you think I possibly could be. He is striking at the root of the problem, which is identity. Establishing ourselves as the dasa of my Bhagavan is a beautiful identity. But it should result in complete surrender. It should result in complete devotion and bhakti. It should not be like a lot of people when they go to Upanyasams, when they want to listen to Bhagavan's glories, Bhagavan is everywhere, Bhagavan is all present, omniscient, omnipresent. He is in everybody. You listen to all those things so beautifully, but go to the Upanyasam, they will fight with people with the auto rickshaw kara. Right? They will fight with the Enga Porcha. I am going and buying some tenga and all that, and the tenga karnoda they will be fighting. செருப்பு வைக்கிற இடத்துல அவளோட சண்டை போட்டு இருப்போம்.
செருப்பு ஸ்டாண்ட் அதான் சொல்லுங்க. செருப்பு என்னடா 10 ரூபாய் வாங்குற அப்படின்லாம் கேட்டு
அங்க சண்டை போட்டு இருப்போம். உள்ள வந்தா எல்லாம் பகவான் அகம் பிரம்மாஸ்மி அப்படின்னு சொல்லி உள்ள போய் உட்காந்து. We don't recognize this paradoxical nature of our behavior. We don't see this parody. And that is the truth. This is the way, because why we want to identify with something. Agar Mahan Rakara, Mahatma Rakara, I want to identify with that Mahatma. I am going to that satsang. I am sitting there. I am part of that group. I am part of this group. And then everybody else is smaller, lower.
Highly identification. Identification
identify. When you identify with that I, there is only dent that is created out in creates a dent in you. Identification. So he strikes at the root of that. He's saying, Naham manushya, nacha deva yakshao. So now Let us do this 1 minute exercise. Okay. 1-2 minutes exercise. Let's go close our eyes and think of a rose, whatever color, red rose. Okay, you got a form of a red rose. Now think of your father. Right? You think of the father, the form of the father, the way he looks, the way he walks. Now think of some distant friend who was in school, who you have not seen since many years. You have not seen that friend. You think of that friend in school, some friend you would have had, and after that you've never seen that friend again. Think of that friend. You can bring that form in your mind and think of some party or tata or somebody in your family who very aged and died, no longer alive. All of these forms you can bring to your mind. Now think about yourself, you. Think about you. Don't see into the mirror, don't see into the Zoom video. Think about you with your eyes closed. Now open your eyes. What did you think when you thought about yourself? What came to mind? When you thought about a rose, you thought about some person, you thought about some distant relative, you thought about a friend in school, you've never seen that friend again, ever. Did that form appear? Okay.
Blank இருந்தது.
When you thought about
when we thought about ourselves, it is very blank. ஒண்ணுமே இல்லை.
So when you thought about yourself,
Nothing was there.
so fundamentally we don't associate ourselves to form. It is fascinating, really, right? Only when we transact with the world, we identify this form and we wanting to give it a name. I am a brahmachari, I am a brahmin, I am a shudra, I am a kshatriya, I am a homemaker, I am an employee, I am the CEO, I am the peon. All of these identifications are only required for demonstration on the outside world for transactional purposes. In reality, if you really think, like Mama said, it's blank. It is blank. Why it is blank? Because there is, in our perception, we don't perceive ourselves as form at all.
That's why we like to see ourselves in photograph.
Correct. Which is why we like to see ourselves in photograph. அப்பப்போ photo எடுத்து பார்த்துட்டு. இல்லைன்னா தினம் கண்ணாடிக்கு நேரம் we stand in front of the mirror and spend.
It's again an unreal image of ourselves.
Correct. There is a verse that Hastamalaga talks about that.
கடையில பார்த்தா திருப்பி தான் இருக்கு. நேரடியா பார்க்க முடியாது நம்மளால.
Correct. You can't really see yourself. It is only a reflection. So what is the idea here? Then the idea that we are figuring out, yes, Magayatri.
So even if when we are thinking about whatever when you said to think about a friend, father, everybody, when we are thinking about them, even if only a memory flashes and not exactly their image, does it also mean that we are unable to associate with the person and it is only, I don't understand.
So when a memory
When you
flashes,
say about them, I get the memory of them.
what does the memory contain?
An image.
An image. Does it contain an image? When a memory comes, maybe you should spend a little more time. Maybe we did it too quickly. If you spend a little time, I'll say, think about your dead. I don't know if your party is dead, but I'm just giving an example, right? Kullu party. Okay. But you wouldn't have seen your Kullu party. Somebody you've seen in your family who's dead. And you think about them. And when you think about them, doesn't some form, outline, something of theirs appear? Maybe the dominant features of theirs, their hair or the way they walk or the way they sit or the way they smile or the way they look, whatever. There is some form that appears in your mind. There's an image of the individual that appears in your mind. There's an image, some kind of image that is there. How do you differentiate then two different people? You have to differentiate in your head. If you're thinking about your party versus you're thinking about your daughter, there must be some image that will differentiate the two, right? It may not be the exact form of what they are, but it's the form of the image that is in your head. There must be some image. Now, that image, whatever it is, now when you think about yourself, there is no image at all, right? What do you think? You can only think about the photo of yours you would have seen somewhere, or recently you would have uploaded your profile photo into Instagram after searching through 150 photos of yours and then applying filters. So your mind may remember that, and hence you may think of yourself, but then again it will very, very quickly vanish if you notice. Because right now you will know, right now I am not that. In your head you will know that even if I bring about my image of a photo of what I have seen myself 2 days ago or 5 days ago, right now I know I am not looking like that, or I may not be like that. So that feeling of form dissolves very quickly when it comes to yourself. Why is that? Because fundamentally we are not identified with anything. It is a mental construct. Identification is a mental construct which we have trained ourselves continuously, because we are all outward facing, outward focused. We are working, transacting in the world. But somebody who is not identifying with all of these things, he is able to stand up and say, Naham Manushya, Nacha Deva Yaksha. I am not Manushya, I am not Deva, I am not Yaksha, I am not Brahmachari, I am not Grahastha, I am not Vanaprastha, I am not Sannyasi, I am not Brahmana, I am not Kshatriya, I am not Vaishya, I am not Shudra. This is what he's saying. When he's saying I'm not all of these things, because in today's world, if you say these things, it may not make a lot of sense, because today not many people recognize themselves as I am a Vaishya or a Kshatriya, not many people. But we're talking about 800 years ago, 1200 years ago. And that is a time a lot of people did identify themselves. So today you're identifying ourselves differently. I'm a Gen Z, I'm a Gen Y, I'm a Gen Alpha, Gen Beta. Some identification, or I am a Advaitin, I am a Visishtadvaitin. Some form of identification. I am an art of living meditator. I am a Isha Yoga meditator. I am a Sai Baba devotee. I am an ISKCON's humble devotee.
இந்த டென்ட் ஆழமாக்கிண்டே போறோம்.
Tent.
டென்ட் பெருசாயிட்டே போறது டென்ட். ஃபைனலா போய் அந்த ஐயை ஒழிக்கணும், அவ்வளவுதான்.
So these identifications that we create are required from a transactional standpoint, but we shouldn't believe in it. The point here is you shouldn't believe in it. And why Hastamalaka is able to say this comfortably? Because he knows there is a Mahatma standing here who will understand what I'm talking about. Right? And thanks to Kalpaka, today she reminded tomorrow is Nammalvar's Tirunakshatram. And yesterday we briefly mentioned Nammalvar as a similar situation as Astamalaka. Not exactly the same, but slightly there he is the Acharya. So Nammalvar is Madhura Kavi Alvar's Acharyan, and this is in the Dwapara Yuga. Nammalvar was known to be in the Dwapara Yuga, what, for 4,000, 5,000 years ago. So he was also, as a small boy, completely devoid of any kinds of engagement, expressions, communications, nothing. Till the age of 16, he was just meditating. Or puliya marangulla ulla poi, like a tamarind tree, he goes inside and then he is meditating there. Today, even in Alvar Tirunagari, you go, there is a tamarind tree where there is a small baby going into the tree, kind of a thing. The backside, the buttocks of the baby is seen. It's like that. I remember my parents took me when we were very young. So that is the place the parents took the little boy, Nammalvar, and then the boy went into the tree and sat down in meditation. For 16 years he was meditating. And then Madhura Kavi Alvar came. And till then he wasn't speaking or communicating or engaging with anybody. Madhura Kavi Alvar came and then he saw there is something unique about this boy. Madhura Kavi Alvar was much older than him. And then he went and asked him, Tamil Ketter, Settadin Vaitril, Siriyadu Pirandal, Yettai Tindri, Yenge Kadakum, something like that. So, Settadin Vaitril means in the dead body's womb, if something is born, what will it eat and where will it reside? Then the Alvar, Nammalvar, who was quiet for 16 years, haven't spoken with anybody, the first thing he says is, Attai Tindra Ange Kadakum Mundin Chandra. He eats that and resides there. So he talks about the Atma, the Jivatma. With the Prarabdha, it comes into the womb of a body and it eats the Prarabdha, the Punya, Papa, Karma, it does all that and it resides there only. Madhura Kavi Alvar, the answer, see, it seems very abstract. Attai Tindra Ange Kadakumna, Seri, but Madhura Kavi Alvar recognized what he is meaning to say. And then he fell at his feet and he said, please take me as your disciple. And the boy was silent for 16 years. Then the next 16 years he spoke and he gave Tiruvayamozhi and all of that. But at least or 1000 prabandham he gave, 1000 prabandhams he gave. So there is no, and at that point they are not, he is not sitting there as the upholder of Vaishnava Sampradaya. He is sitting there as pure Atma. Right? And then later he says, many years in Kali Yuga, there will be an Acharya who will come and revive the Prabandhams and all that. Just then the Ramanuja comes. All that story is there. But when this boy is sitting there, he is just sitting there as silence. And he is doing Upanyasam in silence like Dakshinamurti. But the world doesn't understand it. They need words. Like how Kavya Kanta Ganapati went to Ramana Maharshi, and that is when Ramana Maharshi started speaking. Till that he was known as the Mauna Swami. Silent. Didn't want to engage. So in the same way, Hastamalaka is not wanting to engage. And the mindset. And he's very Jakradeyarkar. Like Nochur Swami says, Jakradaya, Jagritla Jakradeyarkunabdin, which means in Jagrat Avastha, you have to be very careful. Because you can slip, you can fall into that identification very quickly. You have to be very, very cautious and aware, and let not transactional world pull you into it. Do what needs to be done. Like I've told you about my guru's guru. When Prativadi Bhayankaram Tatacharya came to his ashrama in Rishikesh, Prativadi Bhayankaram Tatacharya was a very, very staunch Anangacharya வந்து இவரு I don't know which acharya came. I don't know which acharya came. Must be that one. But he was a very staunch. There is a lineage of Prativadi Bhayankaram acharyas. And it started with Prativadi Bhayankaram Anna, Hastagiri Anna. If you remember, we did the Venkateshwara Suprabhatam. So he is the one who composed Venkateshwara Suprabhatam, Prativadi Bhayankaram Anna, Hastagiri Anna. From him, there is a lineage of Prativadi Bhayankaram acharyas. One of the acharyas during the time of Shivananda Swami, he goes to the ashrama of Shivananda and he's a staunch Vaishnavite. So Swami Shivananda orders all his disciples to quickly remove all the Shiva and the Pullayar Muruga photos, please. And he says, why are you doing like that? For you, all gods are one, right? He says, for me, it is like that. But for the one who's coming, he is very strong and staunch in Narayana. So I don't want him to feel discomforted. So I'm removing all this so that he is only seeing Rama, Krishna, Narayana, the avatars. Now, the point here is, for the transactional, if you have to engage, if you have to make people comfortable, speak their language. Be in the presence, do that, whatever you need to. You're not going to go, you're not a revolutionary trying to change the world. Understand that, please. No amount of learning Vedanta or learning all these scriptures is going to suddenly make us somebody who's going to go revolutionize the world and change things in the world. Far from that. Even a little bit we are able to transform ourselves. That is the greatest thing. Somebody went to Ramana Maharshi and asked, Bhagavan, there's so many wars and so many things happening. We have to do service, you have to build hospitals, you have to build schools, you have to build this, that, and the other. Ramana says that the greatest service you can do to mankind is realize yourself. The moment you realize yourself, there is auspiciousness around. You will do what is required to be done. You will not go around thinking what you think is the right thing and do. No. See, why did Madhurakavi Alvar or Nammalvar speak only at the age of 16? Why did he not speak at 17 or 17 and a half or 15th year November nothing like that. At that time, things came together. Madhurakavi Alvar was there. There was a need. There was a need that expressed itself, and it came out as a pravaha. That's all. He didn't look at the Jatagam to say that, okay, this is the good time I should speak, this is the time when somebody comes and asks me, I should start speaking. Nothing like that. This is all intuitive living. That is important. So when you get to that level of we realize and then we live a life of intuition, then you're not compelled to do something. You're not compelled to, so many people are suffering. I have to go and build a hospital and build this, build that. So our agenda is not to go and fix the world. Our agenda is to look at this thing, because with what we are currently, we go and fix the world, it will only become a messier place. It will only become a messier place. We understand that. Once we come to a place of complete understanding, recognition of truth within ourselves, we'll do what is required in the world. So, transact in the world. If you have to go to, possibly you have to go to, I visit a lot of ISKCON bhajans and we respect them. I respect them and I sit, we also chant. Right? But you see that they sometimes become very, very Krishna activists or Krishna terrorists. Nothing else. So then it's okay. You're not trying to change them, right? Conditioned in an extremely strong way. So you go to Shankara Madam somewhere, they'll be conditioned in an extremely strong way. You go to a Sri Madam, very, very strong conditioning. And that's all right. If that path gives them some understanding, some level of liberation, freedom, that is fine. So let them be on that path. Now, what we are doing is you're trying to understand that all of these things are beautiful, because we're not going to come head on with anybody and try to prove your point. We are not going to a Vidvat Sabha and trying to prove. this versus the other. We understand it in our own ways. Now, when we all closed our eyes and the experience that we had was very, very similar, correct? It was not dramatically different for any of us. Of course, your party is different from my party. You seeing my party will be confusing, right? Those images are different. But when I said red rose is what we get. We all imagine red rose. When I say when you look at yourself, then suddenly there is a certain lack of clarity of image. It's almost like blank, Mama was saying. And we should practice this. We should look at this and to say that this is what I am. This is what is fundamentally my presence. I am recognized by my presence, not with my identification. Right? So, Hastamalaka makes that point here. He's starting to say, Naham Manushyo, Nachadeva Yaksho, Na Brahmana Kshatriya Vaishya Shudraha, Na Brahmachari, Na Grihivanastha, Bhikshur Nachaham, Nijabodha Rupaha. I am not a bhikshu also. So, sannyasi who's supposed to renounce everything sometimes also recognizes himself saying, I am a sannyasi. Right? It's a very tricky thing. If you've renounced everything, you should renounce the sannyashood also, right? Sannyasatvam you drop panname, that also has to be dropped. Sannyasi drops everything but retains that I'm a sannyasi, which means you have not dropped everything. So he's saying bhikshuhu na aham. Bhikshur naham. I am not a bhikshu also. If you're thinking that, oh, I have renounced everything and I'm a sannyasi, don't be mistaken, I am not a sannyasi also.
பரமாச்சாரியார் கூட ஒரு வாட்டி சொல்லுவார், அடிக்கடி சொல்லுவார், நான் ஒரு சன்னியாசி, அதையும் மீறி என்னை வந்து மடாதிபதி ஆக்கி இதெல்லாம் எனக்கு பொறுப்பெல்லாம் தரீங்க, எனக்கு இன்னும் அந்த விடுபட மாட்டேன்றேன்னு அப்படின்னு.
ஆமா, many occasions Mahaperiva is an exemplar of somebody who's realized being transacting and working amongst all of us. He has made this statement many times, saying that I am compelled, Bhagavat Agnyaya, I am compelled to sit in this Pitham as the Mathadipati and I'm having to carry this. He was absolutely not, there is no identification he carried. He would keep saying that, I don't want to be identified with any of this. He would say Ramana sitting in Tiruvannamalai is a far more freer person than I am. Because I am tied to this. So in that way, even a sannyasi, you should recognize that when we are renouncing, you can renounce it right here, right now. You don't need to become a sannyasi. But yes, the world will come and keep prompting you. You're a homemaker only, right? Like that, they will keep prompting you. You are a programmer, right? You are a management associate. You are a CEO. You are an employee of this company. This association, the world will keep creating. And it is our duty to transactional have that conversation, but our duty to make sure we don't believe that. Don't believe that. Somebody comes and says same thing. Somebody comes and says, oh, you are such an intelligent person. Don't believe him. As much as you shouldn't believe somebody comes and says you're a dull guy. Muttal mari irukka appdinu sonna Nijabodha Rupaha. That is what he's saying. Nijabodha Rupaha. So this I am, this Nija is eternal, always consistent, constant. Bodha Rupaha, the form of wisdom. I am this form of wisdom. If I now repeatedly say that, imagine the amount of self-confidence I will have. See, we spoke about this whole thing being a psychiatric treatment, right? Nijabodha Rupaha, I am nothing but the form of wisdom. Nobody can take that away from me. I sometimes wish to express wisdom. Sometimes I don't wish to express wisdom. That's all. Maybe the world is not wise enough to understand my wisdom. Think of it that way. Right? Because intellect is also thing of the brain. It will be sharp, it will be dull. Now at young age, you'll be very sharp. When you grow older, it'll start becoming dull. You're not wanting to associate with that. Yes, you have to sharpen your intellect. Yes, you have to be able to understand all of this. To that extent, we put ourselves, but not identify with it. Please understand. Today, if I'm carrying a phone, and this is unfortunate, right? If I identify myself with my phone, how much of suffering, imagine. If this phone is lost today, gone. மூச்சு பிடிச்சிட்டு கூட இருந்துடலாம், போனை பிடிச்சிட்டு போனை விட்டு இருக்க முடியாது. I cannot be without my phone. Identification, heavy identification, extreme.
நொச்சூர் சுவாமிகள் சொல்றாரு இந்த மகாபாரத இதுல கீதா புக்ல, it says desire is limitless. Desire is limitless. But non-desireness, desire is limitless, but non-desirelessness has no limitations.
Correct. So actually, it's very interesting because when we say when one desire ends, so desire is always unitary in nature. It is limitless in terms of its occurrence. But between one desire and another desire, one desire ends for the other desire to begin. There is that space. That space is desirelessness, and that has no limitations. Right? That space has no limitation there. It is we who have created limit between the first desire and the second desire, and there is this gap. This gap is what we need to focus on. In fact, Buddha says that gap is what causes you the fulfillment of desire. The fulfillment of desire we feel apadi, right, is not because a desire is getting fulfilled, because after that desire, between the next desire rising, there is a gap, there is a desirelessness. And that is what gives you joy and fulfillment. So coming back to this the identification, he is pointing out that please do not identify yourselves. Right? And we transact, we engage, we do all of this. Very beautiful. Do not fall for this identification. And then we say, oh my God, then I don't have anything to hold. This is the adhara we started off talking with, right? We have to hold something to hold. Otherwise, I find myself lost, alone, abstract in this world. Tanandaniya nikkarene. Some of us are prepared for it. Some of us are prepared to stand and know that this principle that is there is always protecting me and ever present and always there. But some need a Bhagavan to hold on to. I want to open my eyes and I want to see an Acharya. I want to see a Perumal. I want to see Ambal. So be it. So be it. Because the next verse, the Upadhi. The Upadhi is that becomes an instrument of our limitation. But let it not limit you. You want to see Bhagavan every day? See. It is not wrong. Beautiful thing. I feel like I want to create this. I want to get up and see Krishna the first thing in the morning. See. See Krishna. But also know that this Krishna is the Sarvavyapi. Not as Krishna. Understand this. This is the big mistake that we do. We think Krishna is Sarvavyapi as Krishna himself. No, he can be Allah. He can be Jesus. He can be Ahura Mazda. He can be Zoroastrian. Ahura Mazda was the deity of Zoroastrians. He can be any of that. Our problem is we want to superimpose Krishna on everything. You're not superimposing Krishna. So Krishna is present in everything as them. Like how we see, but now if I see Krishna Vidya, I see Chandra Mama, I see Gayatri. If I say Bhagavan is in them as them. Can't say உனக்கும் கிருஷ்ணருக்கும் சம்பந்தமே இல்லை, எனக்கு எங்க இருக்கு மீசை எங்க இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி. It's not like that. Because we carry an image of Krishna, we want to superimpose that image on everything we see. No, we say Krishna is a principle. That is where we have to get to a place of knowing the form and also recognizing the formlessness of them, so that allowing them to express through everything, so that Krishna can then express through individual people, individual beings, and recognize that yes, Krishna is expressing. Yeah,
Ornaments, gold Mari.
correct. Same thing. Ornaments are different expressions of the same principle, gold.
No, yeah.
Correct. And they express themselves as those ornaments, as in that.
Substratum is Radha Krishna, but in a different.
Correct.
For my transactional view, I accept it like our Srividya,
Absolutely. So Krishna is operating, but as them, not as the guy you think in your head, and which is why we reject. We reject the fact that Krishna is operating through them, because we have an idea of Krishna, and then you see this person, they are not like that, and hence this conflict. So that is what Hastamalaka will pause with the second verse today. Hastamalaka is starting to say, Naham Manushyo, Nachadeva Yaksho, Na Brahmana Kshatriya Vaishya Shudra, Na Brahmachari, Na Grihi Vanastaha, Bhikshur Na Chaham, Nija Bodha Rupaha. I am this everlasting bliss, joy, wisdom, understanding. See, which is why these, in my opinion, Shastras or scriptures are very useful, because if this word I pick up, it stays in my mind. Aham Nija Bodha Rupaha. I have understood the word Nija Bodha Rupaha. If I have understood this word, I can bring this word back to my mind, right? At some time when my mind is feeling low. No, I am Nija Bodha Rupa. I am this everlasting bliss, joy, principle. I don't feel it now. Doesn't matter. I am that. Acharyas have said, Bhagavan has said. That's why we say when God speaks to us in many ways. Correct. God speaks to us in through different means and methods and ways. So some of these verses become potent, become valuable if simple some of these things we listen to it and we hold in some form, and we bring it back to in our minds. Right? Sankatashe Hanumana Chodavai. That's all. Now, if you really believe Sankatase Hanumana Chodavai means what? Hanuman will release you from all kinds of troubles and problems. Finished. This word is there. You chant this. The word is there in your head. Can you bring it up when you're in that condition? When you're feeling troubled and feeling distressed? And Sankatase Hanumana Chodavai. Hanuman will release me from Sankat. This is why these things are important. The shlokas, verses, scriptures, and all of that are not important because they're beautiful poetry and all of that, because it allows you to take some phrases, some verses, and then use them at times of need, because you know that there is truth in it. You may have experienced it, you may have not experienced it, but you are bold enough to explore it, because you know that there have been people who have explored it and experienced it and have understood, and you know that yes, I will also get the same experience if I'm bold enough to explore it. So that way, these are all in many ways Upanishadic mantras, right? So we should look at it that way. Astu. So we pause the second with the second verse today, which is actually the first verse of Hastamalaka, and we are 2 days down, 3 more days to go. Next week we will try to complete most of it. If for whatever reason it doesn't get completed, maybe I'll request one more session or whatever. We will see.
Let us not limit the sessions. Let it flow like this. What is more important is when you're getting the deep profound meanings of all these things. That is really what is required than trying to finish it in
Yeah.
so many classes. வேண்டாம் லிமிடேஷன் வேண்டாம். ஹாப்பியா இருக்கணும் அப்படியே போடலாம். எப்போ
Okay.
முடியட்டும்.
Okay, Mama.
And whenever you want to pass, of course, you have a time limitation. When you want to pass, please pause it. But let's continue at some point.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mama. Om Kayena Vacha Manasendriyeva Buddhyatmana va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanayeti Samarpayami Sadashivayeti Samarpayami Jagadambiketi Samarpayami Sadgurunathayeti Samarpayami Hari Om Tat Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Gurudeva.